Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm bringing you another reading vlog. In today's reading vlog, Booktuber's worst books of 2024 are going to control my TBR. They're going to control what I read. I just did a vlog where I read Booktuber's best books of 2024, so I will link that down below in the description. Go and check that out. Similar to how I did that vlog, I picked out Booktubers that are new to me because I kind of just want to add some new faces to my feed and just also get some new and fresh book recommendations. Though I don't know that these book recommendations are going to be all that great considering the fact that I am reading their worst books, but it's nice to read different things. It's nice to have some new faces in my subscription feed, so we're gonna go with it. The first booktuber that I picked out and is new to me is Lexi, or Newly Nova. I love her energy already. I'm kind of like obsessed. Her humor is fantastic. She's got amazing book recs, she's got reading vlogs, she's got book rankings, all the things. Link to her channel down below in the description. I went through her worst books of 2024 video. I did not fully watch it because I wanted to kind of go into these books without any influence, because I feel like already having it labeled as somebody's worst books already has me going into it with a bit of a different perspective. So I'm going to go in without the booktuber's thoughts, and then I will circle back, watch their video, and compare our thoughts. But the book that I picked out from Lexi's video is YN. This book is one that I've had for a while. I've had it for a couple years now, and I've been really wanting to read it, so I'm excited to have it bumped up my TBR. Even though this is one of Lexi's worst books, I am still excited to read it. The synopsis is really interesting. Basically, we have this girl who has become obsessed with this K-pop idol group. Like, she is down bad for these guys. And I believe her favorite member of the group has pulled out, and she is left confused because the statement does not reveal why this member left the group. And so our main character decides that she is going to go to Seoul and figure out exactly what happened to their favorite K-pop idol. It sounds so intriguing. I believe this book kind of explores the idea of like parasocial relationships, and I have several books that kind of cover this topic, and it's one that I've been wanting to just kind of explore and one that I've been wanting to see pop up in some fiction books. I'm excited to see how the author kind of explores that idea throughout this book. To be honest, while I feel like I've seen this book around, I feel like I haven't heard that many people talk about it, so I will be interested in hearing Lexi's thoughts after I read it. So without further ado, let's get this vlog going. It's time to get started on YN. Reading update time. I have made progress in YN. I am on chapter 7, page 105, and this book so far is something else. I will say it's one of those books that's written in such a confusing way, but I understand what's going on. Well, I think I understand what's going on, and I think truthfully it's supposed to give this effect. If not, then I am being played. I feel like it's just one of those books where you question yourself as you're reading it, especially this book, because it's one where you're just like questioning reality as you read it. You're like questioning the reality within the book, like what's real and what's not real. Obviously all of it is fiction, but like in terms of the story itself, you're like, is what happening here real or is it fan fiction? Because that's a big part of this book, is fan fiction, and that's sort of why the reality within this book begins to blur, is because the author is also bringing in chunks of the character's fan fiction. So far this book has been a lot different than I expected it to be. It still has that parasocial edge, and that's something that I definitely was expecting going in, but it also has a heavy focus on fan fiction, which the title YN is actually a fan fiction term, which I didn't even know that going into this book. But YN in fan fiction terms is your name, and it's often used in self-insert fan fiction, which I was not aware of until reading this book. Clearly I don't know all that much about fan fiction. Personally, for me, I know my obsessive tendencies, and if I were to like open the can of fan fiction, the can of worms if you will, I don't know that I would ever pick up a book again, because I probably would become obsessed with fan fiction, and we don't want that. I respect fan fiction, I get the appeal, I get why people love it, but I know myself and my obsessive tendencies, and I don't want to fully just become obsessed with fan fiction and never pick up a book again. So fan fiction is currently blocked in my world, but it is interesting to read about. Mind you, so far I am just feeling okay about this book. I think it is really interesting and really eye-opening, but I'll be really curious to see what ends up happening and where this is all leading to, and what exactly this book is trying to say. I'm hoping that the ending might turn around the way that I'm feeling. I could see it doing that, but it just depends on where everything lands. Today is a read and thrift day, so I'm going to be continuing to read YN and hopefully finishing it today. Honestly, I probably could finish it today. It's a rather short book. I'm also going to be going thrifting with my best friend. My best friend is in town for a few weeks, so we're going to go do some thrifting today and see if I can find some treasures. reading update time. I ended up finishing YN and it didn't end up really being for me. It's not my vibe, not my scene, not my cup of tea. I just didn't really connect to it. I do really understand and feel like I know what it was trying to do. There's several things that I think that this book was trying to achieve. One of them is obviously to kind of explore the idea of parasocial relationships and just how far they can go and how sometimes they can go into an unhealthy place. And I also feel like it's a depiction of kind of like having a void in your life and the things that you can use to fill that void and how that can be revealing in a lot of ways, specifically the ways in how you cope and how you fill that void. Do you let that coping mechanism stay in a healthy place, or do you take it too far? In this scenario, too far. Way too far. Truthfully though, taking a step back from this book and my negative feelings that I have about it, it is a rather sad book. Like, it's really sad reading about this character that feels like they can't live without this person and the lengths that they go for this person that they don't even know. Like, it's honestly devastating when you really take a second to think about this story and think about what this character is going through. It's really sad. On one hand, I think that this is a really interesting peek into obsessive culture. It certainly sets up a conversation about fan culture, but I think that that's the problem that I have with it the most, is that it really only presents these ideas, but it doesn't do anything with those ideas. No real point was made, in my opinion. I love a conversation starter, and I do feel like this could be like an interesting book club read, because you could like take the ideas that were brought up in this book and actually discuss them and share your thoughts and share your opinions. But I feel like that's where this book kind of falls flat, is that it doesn't really take those ideas and do much with it. But maybe that's the point of it. Maybe it's up to the reader to take those ideas and think about them and come to their own conclusions about things. But I just personally would have liked to have seen those things gone somewhere rather than just kind of like hitting a dead end. I ended up landing on a 2-star rating. I was gonna give it a 2.5. I think I was wanting to give it a 2.5 to make it less hurtful, because like a 2-star rating is not a good rating. A 2.5 has a little cushion, a little positivity cushion. So I'm leaving it at that, a 2-star rating. I'm now gonna go watch Lexi from Newly Nova's video and come back and compare our thoughts. Dang, Lexi did not hold back their thoughts. The one thing she had to say about it is, it read like a senior year creative writing project of the most annoying person that you have ever met. The way I gasped when she said this, like, did not hold back, fully went for it, but valid and fair. I definitely understand where Lexi is coming from, and while I mostly agree, I will say, like, the one thing that I did enjoy, since I didn't mention anything positive, is that I really liked the writing style, and I really sort of liked the joint element of reality and fan fiction. Even though, like, that line gets blurred and it kind of makes it a little bit confusing, I still really enjoyed a lot of the prose. So overall, we did feel pretty similar about this book, so a win is a win. I'll take a win, okay? It's now time to share the next booktuber that I picked for this video and my next read. And the next booktuber that I picked out for this video is Vish Books with Vish. I almost said Vish Reads. They're new to me, okay? So I'm still getting used to their username. Books with Vish, I picked out a book from their Worst Books of 2024 video. I will link their channel along with their video down below in the description. I'm really excited to be a new subscriber of this channel. I really like their vibes. I feel like they have a lot of the booktube content that I really enjoy. So things like TBRs, wrap-ups, reading vlogs, all things that I really enjoy consuming. So I'm excited to watch more of their content. The book that I ended up picking from their video is The Bride Test. Now, I read another book by this author last year, I think it was. Was that last year or was that this year? I think it was last year. It was The Bride, not The Bride Test, that's what this book is. Get it together, Jesse. It was The Heart Principle, and I really enjoyed that book. I gave that book probably a 4 out of 5 stars. So I kind of picked this book from their list knowing the fact that I had already enjoyed a book by this author previously. So there is a chance that I will enjoy this one if it's anything like The Heart Principle. I will say that the synopsis of this book sounds pretty silly, but we have this guy who is not interested in love at all, but his mom is like, I can't have that. Like, you have to fall in love, you have to get married. So she ends up contacting this girl from Vietnam and having her come and live in America to basically like force a marriage to happen. Not force a marriage to happen, but like she wants this girl to fall in love with her son and her son to fall in love with this girl. Like, there's gotta be more to it. I don't know exactly, like, it's not like the mom just like calls up this random girl in Vietnam. Like, there's gotta be some kind of connection there. So I'm very interested to see what that connection is. I believe we get both perspectives. So we get Kai's perspective, who is the son, who is kind of being forced in the situation that he probably doesn't really want to be a part of. And then we're getting Esme's perspective, who is the girl from Vietnam who is being flown over to basically like to stay with this random guy that she doesn't even know. And her reasoning reasoning for even like agreeing to it is that she wants better for her family, and she sees this as an opportunity to like grow and go to a different place. I'm very interested to see how I end up feeling about this one, because I feel kind of funny about like a forced marriage situation. Obviously they're not being forced to be married, but like Esme is being brought to America to like seduce Kai to marry her, which I'm sure it's going to be like a lot deeper than that. I'm sure it's not going to be like just a book following this girl trying to seduce a guy. I think it's going to be a lot more deep than that. At least that's what ended up being the case with the heart principle. Like you might read the heart principle description and be like, that's so silly, but like then you read it and it's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of emotion, it's got a lot of depth. So I'm very interested to see how I end up feeling about this book. So I will keep you guys updated. Let's get to reading. I don't know why or how this is happening, but I keep reading series out of order, specifically with romance series. This is technically the second in this series. I actually didn't realize that this is connected to the heart principle and that this is like the second book in that trilogy. So the first book is the Kiss Quotient, this is the second book, and the heart principle is the final book in that trilogy. I don't know why, but I keep reading these trilogies out of order. It's not like it matters all that much with these romance books because it feels like it's more so just like character connections. But like, what if it did matter? What if the plot points in this book were affected by book one? That would be a problem. Thankfully, it's not a problem. I really need to get better at actually reading these trilogies, these series, in freaking order. Reading update time. I have made decent progress in the Bride test. I am on chapter 18, page 179. So far, I'm in the middle with this one. Not really in the middle. I'm more so leaning towards like a gripey feeling about this book because I have several gripes already. Not to be a cranky reader about this book, but there are several things in this book that are just not working for me, or honestly just like don't align with my taste. And maybe I should have like picked up on that with the description alone because it kind of introduces the concept. I don't really love this kind of arrangement where these characters are kind of like being forced to be together. And it's not like these characters are necessarily being forced to get married or forced to be in a relationship. It's mostly this character Kai trying to please his mother by welcoming in this woman that his mother wants him to marry. It's not like he's being forced to marry her. The mom's not coming in with a gun being like, you better marry this woman or I'll shoot. Like, it's not going that far. Thankfully, that would not be okay. But I just feel like I don't like this situation because here's the deal. They're gonna fall in love. It's a romance book. We know they're going to get together, but like their connection is not there. Them coming together as a couple is not working for me because it's forced and I just don't believe it. I'm not buying into it. I can't. It really freaking frustrates me. I honestly wish this would have been a situation where these characters were like forced together in this situationship and then they ended up falling in love with other people. And the two that were forced into the situationship would have just ended up becoming really good friends and would have supported each other on their own romantic journeys. Like, I would have been down for that because like that sounds fantastic. I would read a book like that. If you have a book like that, recommend it for me down below in the comments. I just don't really feel like the characters have connected on a substance level yet. It all feels very surface level. And also, one of the characters is lying, one of the characters is keeping secrets, and I'm not okay with it. It's really frustrating me. I get that having characters lie is a tool that is used often to obviously create chaos, cause conflict, all those kinds of things, but it's just frustrating as it is on top of the concept of this book of the characters being forced into the situationship, because I already don't like that, and then I don't like the lying and the withholding of information because I know where that's gonna go. Like, it's very obvious where that's gonna go. It's gonna go ba-boom, and it's gonna cause chaos, and I'm not gonna enjoy that chaos. I'm like sweating over here talking about my annoyance with this book. I'm sure we'll see more development with their relationship, more development in their connection, but currently where I'm at, I just don't feel like their connection has any substance. And I'm shopping for some substance, some depth. What all is the relationship depth on? Aisle 3? Great. Oop! Seems to be out of stock. Are we surprised? No! Not me over here like role-playing. We need to get it together here. What are we doing? On the opposite side of things though, there are things that this book is doing that I'm really loving. Like, I'm really fully enjoying as I'm reading this book, and it's what's keeping me involved. Specifically with the character Kai, we have Kai, who is a character that is autistic, and he has convinced himself that he is not capable of loving another person. So I'm sure that we're going to go on a journey with Kai and him like figuring out that like he can fall in love with somebody else, and I think that that journey is going to be really important and really beautiful, but I just think that there are other frustrating elements of this book that's like causing me to like struggle to enjoy it fully. So far, that's where I'm at with it. I'm a little bit frustrated with some things that are happening, but on the other hand, there are some things that are really fun and some things that I think are really important. So I'm interested to see where things go. I don't think it's going to be a Heart Principle situation where I end up really loving it, though I don't think it's fair to compare it to Heart Principle because it is a different story, but I just can't help but do it because it's the only other book by this author that I've read. Tonight I'm going to see a movie, my second movie of the year, and also my second horror slasher of the year, which is interesting. I saw Companion like a week ago and now I'm seeing this. So what is happening over here? I will say it does look like a much different movie than Companion, so I'm interested to see how I end up feeling about it. But first, before I get ready for the movie, I need to make a bit of a library run. I have some books to return. These are all books that I read in my last vlog, and I've been putting off returning them for some reason, so they need to go back. Now, today, it's happening. Reading update time. I finished The Bride Test. It's never a good sign when my first reaction is to just sigh. I feel like that's immediately a red flag. I ended up in a place where I did not really vibe all that much with this book. There are elements of it that are positive, and I do want to talk about those things, but I think overall this was a big miss for me. And I think it didn't help that I read The Heart Principle and really loved The Heart Principle to go into this book where I just felt iffy already as it is about the concept. Like, the concept alone was one of the biggest red flags for me. Let's start with the positives, and that is one of the most important aspects that this book showcases, and that is Kai's journey. If there's one thing specifically that I love in this book, it was that. It was following Kai's journey, him unlocking the realization that he is able to experience love. Not only that he is able to, experience love, but the fact that he deserves love. He deserves to experience the beauty that comes with falling in love. I loved seeing him go on that journey, seeing him develop and grow. It was just such a solid aspect of this book. So in that case, I would recommend this book if you are interested in Kai's journey, because I think it's a journey worth reading about. It's just like the other aspects of the book that I could not get on board with. I can't say that the relationship doesn't ever develop, because it does kind of grow into a place where it starts to feel believable, but even still, I struggled with it so much. And I think it all goes back to the setup, the main concept of this book. This sort of forced situationship. I felt icky going into it, and then it just was also icky when I was in it. I think overall, it's pretty convenient the fact that these two people that are put in this situation would fall in love. The likelihood of that happening are pretty slim in my opinion. So just having to buy into that fact of being oh yeah, of course they'd fall in love in this situation, it just did not work for me, because they were not really showing any signs of their connection truthfully until later on in the book. Obviously they do get into a place where you can see why they might end up together, but I just still feel it's unnatural, and I didn't like that. I felt icky about it. It was fun. It had cute moments. I loved Kai. I guess Esme goes on a really great journey as well. There just were aspects to her character that I didn't love. There's things that she's withholding from Kai, secrets if you will, lies, truthfully. Let's not sugarcoat it. She's lying. You're a liar, Esme. Those aspects really played into me also having a hard time with the relationship because of the information that's being withheld and the lies that are being told. I just felt going into a relationship already putting up these walls and lying is a way to set up a relationship to fail. Overall, I did end up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. I would say Kai's journey overall though, I would give Kai a 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, now I'm gonna go watch Books with Vish worst books video, and I'm gonna come back and compare our thoughts. Alright, so we pretty much have the same thoughts. I really love when I like perfectly align with another booktuber when it comes to like our opinions on a book. Let me give you the Spark Notes on their thoughts. They gave it a 3-star rating, so it wasn't like the worst book ever, but they said that they had a hard time buying into the chemistry of the relationship, which hear ye, I full on agree. I don't know why I just said it like that, but like I am on board with you when it comes to that. But that really played into me just like not being able to fully ride for this relationship. Like not only is the situation weird, but like where's the chemistry? They also had issues with the secrets and lies, and I again agree full-heartedly. We are on the same page. I'm glad that I'm not alone in my feelings on this book. While I'm sad that I didn't end up loving The Bride Test, I am happy that I felt the same way that Books with Fish did. I went and saw Heart Eyes, and I told you guys that I would give you a rundown of my thoughts on that movie. I really enjoyed it. I honestly feel like it's going to be one of those movies that kind of goes underrated, but it's so much fun. Like I know it is a horror slasher, but it's also a romantic comedy at the same time. Like it's kind of a hybrid of those two, and it's just so much fun. I actually was not expecting it to be as funny as it was. Like the comedic timing throughout the movie was excellent. Mind you, it's also filled with so many like horrific and like heart-wrenching scenes. So it's not one of those movies that's just like la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di. Like you're not just like sitting there giggling, laughing, and just like gushing over the romance. Like there's also people being stabbed and killed and murdered. So it is like still intense, but it's also like so fun. The ones that know. If you've seen the movie, you get what I'm saying. Now it's time to go and pick the final booktuber for this video and share my last book for the vlog. Alright, the last booktuber that I picked out for this video is Will of Ilum Reads. I feel like Ilum Reads is honestly going to become a new comfort channel for me because he's got the cozy, comforting, familiar vibes. He brings his own style to things like TBRs and wrap-ups, so I'm super excited to see more content from him in the future. I picked out a book from his Worst Books of 2024 list, which let me just say, he had This Is How You Lose the Time War on his list, so I feel a little bit validated. Again, I did not fully watch his video, I just skimmed through it. At the end of reading the book that I picked out, I will come back, watch his full video, and compare my thoughts to his. The book that I picked out from his list is actually one that I've been wanting to read for a really long time, so this is kind of like a double-edged sword because while I'm excited about this book, obviously it sucks that he didn't enjoy it, so we'll see if I end up enjoying this book and if our thoughts kind of come together and we feel similar or if we feel differently. But the book that I ended up picking out is Blood at the Root. This is one of those stories where it feels kind of cliche, but I'm sure it's going to bring in some interesting elements. We have a character who does not know that they have powers and then one day unlocks their powers. So basically we're following Malik, and his mother has gone missing or passes away. Potentially his mother passes away. No, his mother mysteriously vanishes one night. Malik ends up at this magical university where he will be able to learn how to hone his powers better and keep them under control. And here he will also learn the secrets of what happened to his mother and the way that that mystery unveils sort of the cracks in the magical community. So it sounds really interesting. I love a magical university situation, which is definitely going to be involved in this book. I'm looking forward to seeing how I end up feeling about Blood at the Root. I will keep you guys updated. Let's get to reading. Reading update time. I have made lots of progress in Blood at the Root. I am on chapter 19, page 229. I'm really enjoying this book so far, but there are things that I feel pretty iffy about, but I think that those iffy things are things that I am able to overlook, or at least I feel like I think I'm able to overlook them. Let's start with the positives. I was instantly drawn to Malik's character. I think that he is a really interesting character with a lot of layers. He has been through the ringer in life. He's been through a lot. He has a lot of trauma, and we follow him on his journey to unpack that trauma throughout this story. And all of that certainly got me feeling some kind of way. It's got me feeling in my feelings, and I just feel like because the author does such a good job of like exploring his character, you really find yourself in a place where you were attached to his character. You feel for him as he's going through all these different things in his life, whether it be discovering his powers or the experience that he went through with his brother or him beginning his journey at the magical university. There's just a lot going on in this story. There's a lot that's already happened, and there's a lot that's to come in the book because I still have quite a bit left. We have a heavy emphasis on bloodlines in this book, specifically Malik's, obviously, and we see that with his mother and her impact and how her impact is impacting how people view Malik, how they judge him. So far, it's been a very character and plot-driven book, which is something that makes me really happy. Like, the characters are charactering and the plot is plotting, and I am just like loving it. There's so many great characters so far and so many interesting plot points. But my big critique currently, right now, is that I feel like the world building is pretty much non-existent. Like, I just don't know some of like the limits to some of the powers yet, and I don't know if like that's coming. I so far have just been allowing myself to kind of overlook it, but it's still in the back of my mind as I'm reading this book. I'm like, I need some rules, I need some groundwork, and I don't feel like I'm getting that. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but I just feel like I need a little bit more in terms of like the world work, the world building, because so far it just feels like the characters are like, we have powers and they do cool things, but they don't really have any limits. And that just like complicates things when there's not really any rule set, and I'm just having a hard time with that in particular. So we will see if the author introduces some things, but I also feel like if the author waits too long to kind of like involve those limitations, how is that going to affect the book as a whole? So that's where I'm at with it so far. So far I'm enjoying it. I'm having to kind of just like suspend my disbelief a little bit and overlook some things, some issues that I'm having. I do really want to love this book because there are so many great things that are happening in this book and so many important things too that are being discussed throughout it, but I feel like I just need a little bit more groundwork. I am heading to Kansas City tomorrow for the day, and I'm going to bring this book with me. I don't know that I'll actually read any of it, to be honest. I'm going to be hitting up some half-price books, so I will definitely bring you guys along, and I don't know if I'll end up buying anything. I probably shouldn't buy any books right now because I just don't need to add to my TBR, but if I'm going to a half-price books, I'll probably leave with something. I'm actually so jealous of anybody that has a half-price books in their area because it's one of my all-time favorite bookstores. I always find so many treasures at those bookstores because there's just so many books. Like, it's one of those bookstores where you're not just finding new releases, like they have so many back titles at such a great price. So I'm jealous and envy of those of you who have a half-price books near you. Before I get into the reading update, I'm going to do a bit of a Kansas City haul because I did pick up some things from Kansas City that I want to share with you guys. I did in fact get some books. They're not like fun new releases though. I feel like I never get like fun, new, exciting releases from half-price books. I just feel like I always find some like old school books or books that are like out of print. The first few books that I found were these old school Paddington books. I've never read a Paddington book, but I do love the movies. So I just picked these up because honestly, I love the vibes. I love the vibes of these covers specifically, and I would be interested in reading these at some point. I just don't know that these are necessarily like a high priority, but they were in the clearance section for like literally $2 each. Like, I couldn't say no to that. So I said yes to that. Then I picked up this random book that just like called to me. It's called The Bookstore Mouse, and I believe this is about a mouse that lives in a bookshop in a fantasy world and all the hijinks that he gets up to living in the bookstore. It just sounded really charming, so I had to have it. Only $3, what a steal. I will say my heart melted a little bit because it has a little inscription on the inside cover. It says, "From Mom," and it's dated 7303. When I find things like this in used books, I'm always like, did they have a bad relationship? Like, was this book like scarring for them to own so they had to give it away? Did the person that owned this book pass and they just gave up the book? Or did they just not care about the book? Was it not very sentimental? Are they not a sentimental person? I don't know. I just like start to like make up stories in my mind. So tell me you're imaginative without telling me you're imaginative. And then I found some Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books. If you didn't know, I'm trying to like gather all of these books slowly. I'm not like in a rush to collect all of them, but I am planning on doing like a Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys reading vlog where I like read through the entire series. It's gonna take a long time. It's not a video that's gonna be coming out anytime soon, so I don't want to like tease it or anything, be like, it's coming, because it's not coming. Like, it's gonna take a while for me to read all of these books. But I'm always happy when I find some that I don't own currently. So excited to have these a part of the collection. The last thing I got in Kansas City was from Trader Joe's, and it's my mini mochi rice nuggets. These are my favorite nothing from Trader Joe's, and I don't have a Trader Joe's in my town, which makes me really sad. There once was an article that was released that said that we were getting a Trader Joe's, and everyone in my town was like freaking out. Like all the Facebookers were like, oh my god, we're getting a Trader Joe's. And then literally like a couple hours later, after everybody was like freaking out, an article came out being like, this is not true, and everybody was so upset. So anyway, if you have a Trader Joe's and you have access to mini mochi rice nuggets, I'm jealous. I stocked up. I got like 7 of these, which is probably not even enough. Like I'm gonna go through these in a couple weeks because they're just so delicious. They're so good. I snack on them. I put them in my salads. Apparently they're great with soups as well, but like, if you have a Trader Joe's and you haven't tried these yet, go try them because I think they're fantastic. I'm honestly probably hyping them up a little bit too much, but I just think they're so tasty. Now is the time. Reading update time. I ended up finishing Blood at the Root. Positives first. I really liked Malik's journey, and I felt like overall the story goes in a really interesting place, and I liked seeing all of those things unfold. There's a really well written, high intense scene that just had me like biting my fingernails as things began to unravel with this specific scene. I also really loved seeing more of the backstory with Malik's mom. At the beginning of the book, you learn that Malik's mother has vanished, and so it's really interesting that she just continues to play such a vital part in the book without her like physically being present. I thought that the author did a really good job of building a story that's filled with depth while also bringing in this intense mystery and having, again, these like nail-biting scenes. With that being said though, critique time! I think this book could have been condensed. Looking back on this book, I think that there are a few scenes that don't necessarily make sense in the grand scheme of things. Like taking a step back and looking at the picture of this book or what this book creates, I think that there are a few scenes that like don't necessarily make sense. Mind you, the sequel has not come out yet. I think it comes out this summer potentially. So maybe those scenes play a role in that sequel. Like maybe they were seeds being planted for what's to come. But I'm obviously just going off of this book specifically. I also think that there were definitely some convenient things that go down in this book. And then also I just felt like the magic itself lent to that convenience because there's honestly not many limitations to the magic, or at least the author like withheld some of those limitations, revealing what those limitations are. And I think that that's overall one of my biggest critiques of this book is the magic and the world building itself. Like there is a major lack of world building within this book and rules and things that I feel like are important when it comes to fantasy books as a whole. I was able to kind of just like overlook it a little bit and just kind of like ride the ride, but I wish that there would have been some more limitations or rules implanted because it was just like bothering me a little bit. Like my eye was twitching every now and then as I was reading this book, so I was just like, I need some rules, I need some limitations, and I just did not ever get that. So it still was fun. I still enjoyed this book. I think I'm landing on a 3 out of 5 stars. I think that that's pretty solid, and I do see myself picking up the sequel and checking it out and seeing where the author takes a series, especially with things that go down later on in the book. It had me curious enough to want to carry on with the series. So we'll see if I actually do, because y'all know how I am. I have a hard time sticking with series, so we'll see if I end up picking up the sequel, but I would like to. It's now time to watch Will's video, aka LM Reads, so I will go watch his video and then come back and compare our thoughts. Okay, so Will definitely brought in a different angle. He did say quite a few positive things about the book, so it's not like he was sitting there being like, this is the worst book ever. I feel like he also enjoyed it, but there were just aspects of it that he didn't enjoy. But he had specific things like the oversaturation of AAVE, the overuse of pop culture references, and he also felt like the story would have been more impactful had it been written in third person, which is honestly a really good point. And I do actually understand where he's coming from when he mentions the fact that like there's a lot of pop culture references. Specifically, one that like is immediately coming to mind is this teacher that they often compare to Mrs. Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Like I remember that being brought up like several times and being like, okay, we get it. The mention of it potentially being written in third person is actually really interesting because I love a first person novel. Like I love being in the head of a character and just like really getting to understand and know a character. But it does make me wonder if third person would have helped the author with the world building, because I feel like third person lends to that better, whereas first person, because you're only seeing through the eyes of the main character and what the main character is experiencing, it's a little bit difficult to kind of introduce the world building, introduce the magic, especially with a character who is just learning of this world and learning of his own magic and learning of his capabilities. So I do wonder what it would have been like had it been written in third person. So I really liked hearing Will's perspective on this book. It definitely like opened up my mind to thinking about some of the things that he mentioned. Now that we have reached the end of this vlog, it is time to rank the books. I'm going to be ranking from worst to best. So starting with worst, I think I would have to go with YN or your, oh, that's upside down. YN or Your Name. This book was unsettling. It was disturbing at times and truthfully really sad. I just wish that it would have kind of explored the ideas a little bit better. Then I'm gonna go with The Bride Test, I think, though honestly, I feel like these two books are on the same level for me, but I think I enjoyed this one just like a little bit more, a tiny bit more. But I really enjoyed Kai's journey. The relationship itself just felt flat for me personally. And then the winner chicken dinner is Blood at the Root. For the most part, I had fun with this book, but I just had issues with the world building or lack thereof, some of the magic elements, and also just some of the convenient elements that came into play. Those were my book rankings. Let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. Even if your thoughts do not align with mine, I still want to hear your thoughts on these books, so share with me your opinion down below in the comments. If you haven't read any of these books, then just let me know down below in the comments what you're currently reading. I want to know. Again, I'm going to be linking all these lovely booktubers down below in the description. Go and check them out. Go and show them some love. I'm super excited to have them in my subscription feed. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. Oh, why am I laughing?